The last morning in our house didn't look like an ending. The sink hummed with the dishwasher, and the sun came through the blind at that slanted angle that always used to make her say the kitchen was photogenic. I told her I'd move on. I said it like a promise you make to yourself, not a threat. Soft, more to the stove than to her. She laughed. Not a cruel cackle, not a movie villain laugh, just a quick breathy chuckle that said she didn't believe me. To be fair, I didn't believe me either. I was still wearing my ring. I was still making her coffee by reflex, even though she'd started taking it to go. It's not that simple, she said, tapping her phone with her thumbnail. You don't flip a switch. I wasn't trying to flip anything, I said. I'm trying to step out of the room we keep burning. That landed somewhere between us and sank without a ripple. She slid on her blazer, dark gray, the one with the stitched-in shoulder pads, and kissed the air to my left. Her mouth used to find my cheek. Lately it found the empty space next to me. When the door closed, the house sounded embarrassed for us. I stood there, mug in hand, and replayed the last year like a voicemail I didn't want to delete. Things didn't break all at once. They thinned. We used to talk in full paragraphs. Then we switched to headlines. She put her phone face down more often. I became a man of small questions. What time will you be home? Should I hold dinner? Are we good? She met me with small answers that sounded like they'd been tested in focus groups. When I say I know she cheated, people expect a smoking gun, photos, receipts, a neighbor's testimony. I have none of that. I have screenshots of late-night texts with no names, a perfume that didn't belong to her clinging to her scarf, and a silence that looked away when I tried to meet its eyes. In the middle of it, what I had most of all was the sense that I had become background noise in my own home. Some nights, she came in smelling like cold air and someone's cologne. Some nights, she came in smelling like nothing at all. Either way, she kept her heels on and her answers short. And it's only fair I say this, I went quiet too. I folded into my work, stayed late, told myself I was giving her space while quietly starving us both. There was the workplace social I attended where I learned how invisible I could be. The junior associates all dressed like they'd been poured into their clothes. The music too loud for a room without dancing. I drifted from cluster to cluster, balancing a paper plate of shrimp skewers, waiting for her to introduce me. She started to, twice. Both times she got pulled away by a hand on her elbow. I recognized one of the hands from our hallway mirror. Expensive watch, face I only knew from the corner of my eye while brushing my teeth. This is, she began, and then she was gone again. Her laugh threaded through other people's sentences. I stood by the ice bucket and tried to laugh along. On the drive home, she said she was tired. We talked about traffic. We did not talk about how she stood all night with her body tilted toward a man who wasn't me. The night she laughed at my promise, I packed a bag. Not a dramatic suitcase. A weekender. A toothbrush, 2 shirts, running shoes I'd forgotten I owned. I left my ring on, because taking it off felt like lying, and I wasn't ready to be dishonest in a new way. I told her I'd be at my cousin's place. She said okay and looked relieved in a way that hurt worse than anger. It felt like I had undone a knot in her chest. My cousin's couch had the shape of other people's naps pressed into it. I lay there and listened to the refrigerator cycle on and tried to understand how we'd lost the plot. By morning I had no answers, just a stiff neck and a new habit of staring at ceilings. I called my mother and lied, said we were taking space, and she made a sound like she'd dropped a spoon. My dad offered to help me move, practical as a wrench. I told them we weren't moving yet. I don't know if I believed that, or if I just couldn't say the word divorce without it tasting like metal. I took up running. The first day I made it 3 blocks and saw stars. The second week I found a pace somewhere between punishing and forgiving, and every time my feet hit the pavement, I felt a small, ordinary victory. The world had edges again. Curbs, crosswalks, a bakery window fogged with cinnamon air. I stopped there after runs and ordered black coffee I didn't need, just to hold something warm. I started sleeping through the night, which felt like cheating on my sadness. I also started writing. Not a journal. Exactly, just notes in my phone, lines that caught me in the grocery store or at a red light. She is not a villain. I am not a hero. We were good at wanting the same window, but different views. Forgiveness is not a coupon you clip. The notes were messy and sometimes sentimental, but they kept me honest. On my better days, I could see how we'd both failed. Me with my inertia, her with her absence. both of us avoiding the conversations that had teeth. On my worst days, I wanted to call her and ask where she was and whose jacket was over her shoulders. I didn't call. 3 months is both a long time and no time at all. By then I'd learned the names of the morning regulars at the little diner near the courthouse, a place that smelled like butter and last chances. The owner wore a baseball cap that said, "Retired," even though he still worked 6 days a week. I liked the clatter in there. The way the waitresses called everyone Han with democratic affection, how the coffee never cooled before a refill arrived. I would sit with my phone face down and breathe like I meant it. On a Thursday that felt like any other, I pushed open the glass door and heard the bell jingle. I slid into a booth by the window, the vinyl warm from the last person. I was thinking about scrambled eggs and about the way my life had slowly stopped burning. I was not thinking about her. I was not thinking about the sound of her laugh hitting the space beside my cheek, which is exactly when I heard a voice say, cheerful and automatic, "Morning, Han. What can I get you?" And I looked up. Her smile froze halfway, like she'd just seen the ghost of someone she buried. For a second, neither of us spoke. The clatter of cutlery and the hiss of the grill in the back filled the space between us. I'd imagined this moment before, sometimes in anger, sometimes in sadness, but in reality, it felt oddly quiet. "Coffee?" she asked, voice thinner now. I nodded. "Black. And scrambled eggs, toast." She scribbled on the pad she didn't need. Her hands used to be steady. Now they fidgeted, tucking hair behind her ear, flipping the page twice before moving on. She turned quickly to the next table, but I caught the way her jaw set, the tiny tremor in her shoulder. 3 months earlier, she'd laughed in our kitchen like moving on was some fairy tale I was too naive to believe in. Maybe she'd been right then. I didn't know how to imagine myself without her. But sitting there now, I realized I'd already been living without her long before I packed that bag. I sipped my water and watched her work the floor. She had the practiced smile of someone trying to make rent off tips, but her eyes betrayed her, darting toward me, then away, like I was both a reminder and a mirror. The other waitresses moved with a lighter kind of tiredness. Hers seemed heavier. When she came back with my plate, she tried for casual. "Didn't know you came here." "Only lately," I said. "It's close to the courthouse." That landed. Her eyes flickered. She remembered the courthouse, probably the last time we'd been in the same room without strangers in between. I wondered if she remembered the final look we shared then, when she left without meeting my gaze. I ate slowly. I didn't say much. The truth was, I wasn't there to talk. I wanted her to see me, alive, unbroken, moving forward, even if that forward was just a booth at a diner on a Thursday morning. When the check came, she set it down without a word. My total was $9.50. I pulled a 10 from my wallet, smoothed it on the table, and paused with my fingers over the single dollar bill beside it. I wasn't trying to be petty. I just wanted the gesture to say what words wouldn't. You valued me at next to nothing, so now I returned the courtesy. She saw it. Her hand froze mid-reach for the plate. The faint flush in her cheeks deepened, and her lips parted like she might protest. But she didn't. She just nodded once, tight, and walked away. I stepped out into the bright, cold air, the bell over the door chiming behind me. I didn't look back, not because I was trying to be strong, but because I'd already had enough of seeing her pretend. I didn't go back to the diner for a week, not because I was avoiding her, but because something in that exchange had settled in me. It wasn't satisfaction, at least, not the gloating kind. It was more like finally setting down a bag I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten how heavy it was. That Sunday morning, I found myself running the long route past the river. My breath made little clouds in the air. I thought about the way her face changed when she saw the dollar on the table. Not rage, not even sadness, but a flicker of recognition. She'd understood exactly what I meant without me saying it. People talk about closure like it's a door you get to slam. I don't think it is. It's quieter, stranger. Sometimes it's just the sound of your own footsteps walking away and realizing you're not counting them anymore. A couple weeks later, I did see her again, by accident this time. I was in line at the grocery store, and she was a few registers over, bagging bread and instant noodles. No makeup, hair tied back with a worn scrunchie. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and chose not to. I didn't feel the sting I expected. Just a small, distant ache, like remembering a song I used to love but don't need to play anymore. That night, I wrote one last note in my phone, We end twice. Once when it's over. Again when it stops hurting. I never deleted the others, but I stopped adding new ones after that. Life didn't turn into some perfect victory lap. It was still just bills, laundry, quiet mornings, but the space in my head that she used to rent for free was finally vacant. Months from now, maybe she'll forget the exact shape of my face when I left that tip. Maybe she'll tell herself it didn't matter. But I'll remember. Not because of what it did to her, but because of what it confirmed for me. I'd moved on, and she'd watched me do it.